Now, I just wanted to bring up the subject of Ukraine because, of course, the horrors of the war in Ukraine continue. There's still tough fighting going on all along the border. The Russians are now making great efforts to take strategic areas such as Avdiivka. And the bloodshed continues, casualties on both sides. But of course, it's Ukraine that's taken the brunt of the casualties. But have they? Let's have a look at some headlines and see how interesting and devious the network is around Ukraine. So this is Business Insider. US officials are concerned that Ukraine is, quote, running out of troops and have hinted at peace talks with Russia. So effectively, Ukraine's got through two armies. You can do the calculations yourself on that. But this is one of the quotes which caught my eye. While the US and allies can provide Ukraine with weapons, if they don't have competent forces to use them, it doesn't do a lot of good. Neither Russia nor Ukraine confirm numbers of their casualties. And then it's got a link to Western estimates. Let's just highlight that. Well, if you click that link, remembering that this article is the 4th of November this year, it takes you to this article, which is more than 2 months old. So this is how vague data circulating on the casualty, but US estimates almost 500,000 combined Russian and Ukrainian military casualties fighting in the conflict so far. But the strange thing is that, according to Ukraine, it's an army that fights without any casualties at all. But is the West, is the United States, is NATO, the EU, actually calling for any form of peace talks? Well, Reuters here with the headline, Western officials broach with Kyiv the issue of possible peace talks with Moscow. And this is, of course, because, of course, it is now obvious that the Ukrainian forces cannot sustain any form of offensive and are struggling in a defensive, taking heavy losses. But is that peace really going to come about? Well, there were some quotes in this article by Zelensky himself. He said, everybody knows my attitude, which coincides with the attitude of the Ukrainian society. Today, no one is putting pressure on me to negotiate for peace, not one of the leaders of the EU or the United States. So the right man in post, because he's going to keep the fighting going. For us now to sit down with Russia and talk and give it something, this will not happen. So the destruction of Ukraine as a country continues, but there's no way we want peace. And Zelensky, the puppet, is definitely not going to call for it. So poisonous has the Ukraine theatre become. A very interesting headline from the Kyiv Independent here. Media, Trump declined Zelensky's invite to Ukraine over a supposed conflict of interest. Now, what I think is really happening here is that, of course, Ukraine is now a poisoned chalice. It's descending into chaos. And the last thing that's going to happen is that Trump is going to blot his copybook by visiting Ukraine. Much better to wait on the sidelines and allow the horrors and the tragedy of Ukraine to be hung around the neck of Biden. So a lot more to be said on the war in Ukraine.
In the meantime, in the Middle East, US Central Command has been tweeting this out a few days ago. On November the 5th, 2023, an Ohio-class submarine arrived in the US Central Command area of responsibility. So apparently this submarine had been in the Red Sea. It's headed up into the Mediterranean. This is Al Monitor talking about it. They have named it, although the US officials who announced this would not name the submarine. But they are saying that on Sunday, US Central Command released imagery of the ship, which a spokesperson for the US Navy's Fifth Fleet declined to identify. Open source observers and Fox News suggested the vessel was the USS Florida, which is capable of carrying and delivering more than 150 Tomahawk cruise missiles, and the Navy SEAL team. Now, I
just wanted to highlight there that that's the Tomahawk missiles that when a huge barrage was fired against Syria, the vast majority of those American missiles did not get anywhere near their targets due to Russian countermeasures. So it's the same missile.
Right. And indeed, the claim is that this submarine has been sent there in order to try to discourage the recent attacks on US military personnel in Syria. So that's what it's there for. In the meantime, the Wall Street Journal is saying that Biden has announced plans for $320 million worth of weapons. to Israel as the Gaza toll mounts is their headline. And they're talking about this being the planned transfer of Spice family gliding bomb assemblies. So these are guided bombs. Under the agreement, the Wall Street Journal says weapons, the manufacturer Rafael USA would transfer the bombs to its Israel parent company, Rafael Advanced Defense Systems, for use by the Israel Defense Ministry. And it also includes the provision of support, assembly, testing, and other technology related to the weapons use. So this is more weapons going into Israel. Well, we'll just mention that Netanyahu was speaking exclusively to ABC News yesterday on the World News Tonight to anchor David Muir, as they say on there. A one-to-one with Netanyahu. He is absolutely saying there will be no ceasefire possible without the release of hostages, and certainly more weapons going there implies that there is zero pressure from the US or the UK to do that. Anyway, my question...
Yeah, you're speechless, Mike. Yes. It's very difficult to describe some of this because it's so appalling and wrong.
So, look, the question is there any opposition to this war policy in the UK? What's the Labour Party's position? Many people will know this already, but I was listening to Bridget Phillipson on the Radio 4 Today programme. She's the Shadow Education Secretary, talking about the Labour position. Let's just have a listen.
Well, as Keir Starmer set out in his speech at Chatham House, it would freeze the conflict. In time, it risks allowing Hamas to regroup and to perpetuate further terrible atrocities that they've said that they want the opportunity to do. But that humanitarian pause to allow for extra time to get into, for aid to get into Gaza is in line with what the US are calling for as well. I believe it's achievable. Not only is it achievable, but I believe it is essential so that we can alleviate that suffering, get more aid in, and make sure that we don't see children as the innocent victims of this conflict. I do understand how colleagues feel on this. I mean, we are, all of us, every day moved by what we see on our television screens, what we read about, the full extent of not just the barbarity of what we saw on the 7th of October, but subsequently the humanitarian crisis that has emerged in Gaza. What we all want to see, and our primary focus, is on making sure that aid does get in, but also in the long run that we see a lasting political settlement. That is the only way through this. I mean, it feels very distant at the moment, I recognise that. But what we all want is a viable Palestinian state alongside a safe and secure Israel. That is the only answer.
So what Hamas did was atrocious, according to her, but what Israel is doing is a humanitarian crisis. I'm not quite sure how that works.
We're presumably going to have a pause and get aid in, and the moment the aid's in, we continue the bombing and things carry on. This is very, very complex, but to me it's obvious that the first thing that should happen is that there should be a cessation of the mass bombing of civilian areas. That is the thing which can happen immediately. That's what Israel is capable of doing. And then you will have a very firm basis to help people in Gaza and also to start dealing with the terrorist element. But in the meantime, the deaths continue.
Yes, and the key point here is that for that to happen, it needs the support of our politicians in this country, and that's down to us. So, okay, let's move on. If you like what the UK Column does, you would like to support us, options for you to do that at community.ukcolumn.org. That would be very much appreciated. You could pick something up at the UK Column shop, but please do share anything you find on the various platforms, especially ukcolumn.org and ukcolumnextracts.co.uk. I want to mention that in a couple of weeks' time, on Sunday, December the 3rd, at 7 p.m. European time, so that'll be 6 p.m. UK time, we will be presenting the first annual David Ray Griffin Lecture on behalf of International Centre for 9/11 Justice. The speaker will be Daniele Ganser, and so the main focus of this, well, first of all, I'll just say that this is the first of an annual lecture series that's going to be held around this time of year each year. It's intended to honour Dr. Griffin's immense contribution to the pursuit of truth and peace and to carry on his legacy of scholarship in search of these principles. So this event is called the Ruthless Empire Post 9/11. And Ganser is going to look at the actions of the US government, the UK government, and so on that have taken place in the last 22 years, or in the 22 years since 9/11, with the goal of maintaining and expanding its global hegemony, particularly in Eastern Europe and parts of Asia. So this is going to be a very interesting evening, and I do encourage everybody to join us for that. Debbie, your blog is up.
My blog is indeed, and I'm sorry I can't cover all the news stories, health news stories on the news, but I'm hoping that you'll find that this is jam-packed, and there's some pretty shocking headlines there. Doctors warn that getting cancer in your 20s or 30s is now the norm. This from a study in Florida. Vaccine shedding has finally been proven. Could stroke be transmissible, and if so, how? And there's a low-cost mRNA vaccine platform that's all attached to Bill Gates. You wouldn't be surprised about that. And I also look at the Future of Life Institute. More from our viewers. Thank you so much on future health. So there's a lot there. And I'm also acknowledging that there have been two huge disasters, one in Nepal and one in Acapulco. So plenty to read in my blog this week.
Thank you. And MHRA, then, the board meeting. It's that time again.
Tickets available. Please go and get your ticket. Cheryl Granger and myself, we're definitely going. So please, just if you struggle to find the link, just put in Eventbrite, MHRA board meeting, and the link to join will come up. So for the 21st of November at 10 o'clock.
And we'll just say the link will be in the show notes on the UK Column website for this as well. And Brian.
Well, no, this one I was going to give to Debbie, actually. Tell us about the interview which has gone up on the site.
Well, I was just hugely privileged to be joined by two of our great friends, Hedley Rees and Cheryl Granger, and we were talking about what is coming down. What should the public expect to come down the pharmaceutical pipeline? When you go to your doctor, when you go to your pharmacy, what questions should you be asking, and what should you be expecting?
Okay, thank you for that. Now I'm just going to put out a little video clip, which is an advert for an interview I did. This will go out tomorrow. It's with an absolutely extraordinary young lady who went through a trafficking network to arrive in the sanctuary of UK to have her children taken. And I've chosen a little clip at the end of the interview where she said something which was truly remarkable to me following the horrors that she had been through. So this interview will be up tomorrow, going out tomorrow on UK Column, but let's look at what she had to say to me. What do you think about the United Kingdom now? What do you think about the country that you live in?
It's one of the greatest civilizations on earth. It has more people doing good than harm. There are a lot more wonderful people in this country than those who are doing evil things. There are a lot of wonderful people in this great country that are doing good than those who are doing evil to people. And they want to make us believe that there are more evil people, but no, that's not true. There are more wonderful people in this country. There are more wonderful people in this country than those who are doing things like the abuse I've endured, that the abuse my children have endured, that the abuse most people have endured.
So trafficked, abused, children stolen by the British state, and that remarkable lady can still say that about the country in which she lives.